Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Your Own Pathways, specifically the New Year's intention related to divorce and relationships and child mediation series here. So, welcome again. Welcome, my guest, Christie Lee Thompson, correct?
Yes.
From Christie Legal. And our first episode was in January, where we talked about New Year's intentions. And it is now February, and we are doing part two of New Year's intention. And Christy, have you been busy?
Yes, yes. I have been very busy because, as I talked about last month, January is the time when the largest number of folks file for divorce. And so February has still been very busy.
Okay. Have you actually seen the increase from February to compared to January, or is it pretty steady?
So it's probably like one third less busy, starting about a week ago. And So essentially, what happens every year to the beginning of the year is
Mhm.
people want to act on their New Year's resolutions, and there are people who act on them right away. I mean, it's like
The
they're
Monday
like,
after New Year's.
yes, they're like, "Can I be divorced tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Do you actually have people that ask you that? Can I be
"Yeah,
divorced tomorrow?
yeah." Mhm. And I'm like, "Well, it's a little more complicated than that, and we have to get the other person involved." And yeah, so, so there are the people who are like really proactive and they're really on it. But then, for a couple of reasons, there are those people who wait for a bit. And one of the reasons that people wait is because this is a really difficult decision. Like,
Life
you know,
changing.
divorce is for a lot of people the most terrible thing that they will ever go through
Mhm.
because when you get married, at least most people, are like, this is the person, who I love and I have loved, better than any other person. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person. And, we're going to raise children together and build our careers and, have a happy home and all the stuff. Right.
Mhm.
And we have so many goals, for our marriage. And so, when they're starting to fall apart, a lot of people want to try to make it work, want to try to hold on to the illusion, um, because they are just like, no, this isn't happening. Um, and Paya, could you tell us a little bit about like what might make people want to hold on to the illusion that their marriage is working?
Well, it's like you said, it's marriage, and it is one of the most stressful things. Divorce is one of the most stressful things, and it's life changing not only for the two of you, but for your children, your family, especially if both parties are really um involved in each other's families. I mean, everybody's life changes. And it's not an easy decision because everybody is impacted financially, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, it is one of the most stressful things that anybody can go through. And so when you think about this, when you're contemplating, it's not just your life that you're changing everybody else's life too. So it's not something that is taken lightly, and when you are hesitant, it's like, is it worth it? Am I overreacting? Maybe I just need to make this work. Maybe we're just misunderstanding. Maybe we just need to figure out what's going on, and you keep working at it. And when you finally come to the realization it's not working anymore, there's relief, but there's also going to be a lot of grief and loss related to the illusion, the
Oh,
dreams, the illusion. People get married never intending to get divorced. So
yeah.
there's a lot of stake. There's a lot of stake when you consider this path.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, most people think it's gonna be happily ever after, or why would they get married?
Mhm.
And so, like, another reason that I see people kind of waiting is because they lack confidence. Um, they have possibly low self-esteem about everything, or they have lack confidence that they're going to be able to take care of their kids on their own, maybe with a little child support, um, or they lack confidence that they're ever going to find somebody, like they're ever going to be in a good relationship again. And
Mhm.
so maybe I'll just stay in this one because, well, I'm already in it. And, if I'm not going to find a better relationship, might as well just stay. So that lack of confidence um, causes a lot of people to hesitate. And a big contributor to the lack of confidence is the lack of information. Like,
Mhm.
most people have not been divorced 2 or 3 times, and they don't know what happens during divorce. They don't know that, when you get divorced, you're entitled to half of the marital assets. And, if you weren't working, that at least for a period of time, you're entitled to spousal maintenance. And just all the things that people don't know because they haven't been divorced before and they don't work in divorce law.
Mhm.
Um, and as
Mhm.
well as, child support and health, medical and dental insurance. They don't know, what they need to know to make good informed decisions. And so that, brings their confidence down. So then they're like, "Ooh, shouldn't make this decision." So, Christie Legal provides everybody with a free consultation to help with that lack of confidence,
Mhm.
because information is power.
Right. Education and being informed is power.
And then, the third reason that people are waiting is because they don't have the money.
Mm.
Even getting divorced
Divorce.
my way is still kind of expensive.
Right.
Um, Now, going the attorney route, which might be unavoidable because you might be married to someone who has a personality disorder, of various types, and that person might be like, "Oh, you're gonna divorce me? Well, I'm gonna put you through hell."
Mhm.
Um, and so then you're going to have an attorney, and they're $3 to $550 per hour.
Wow. That is a lot.
Yeah, I'm like,
Mhm.
"What? That's like a car payment.
That
That's like a
is.
car
That
payment
is.
per hour." Like, oh
Right.
my gosh. And, so for the people who are married to people who have personality disorders or just people who are self-centered, um, yes, you're gonna have to hire an attorney, except there is one type of narcissist who I'm really good with working with and getting on board for, divorcing amicably. And that is the narcissist who loves money. Because
Mhm.
I will save my clients tens of thousands of dollars, and the narcissist who loves money will be like, "Okay, that's great," because they wanna
Mhm.
save money. Um,
Mhm.
but, like, even, divorcing my way, is gonna be on average between $1,200 and $2,500.
Mhm.
And for folks who are extremely low income, that can be a real barrier,
Yeah.
especially if they are suffering from financial abuse and don't
Mhm.
have access to the couple's money.
Do you see a lot of that, Christy?
Um, so I don't see like a lot, but I'm gonna say that like maybe 10% of the really um like the people who are abused who contact me, like about 10-20% of them, they are being financially abused as well as emotional and sometimes physical. And a lot of them don't even see that as abuse. It's like, "Oh my gosh, you can't buy groceries. You don't think that's abusive?" And so, if you're in that type of situation, then you'll want to contact an attorney and find out if he or she would be willing to take your case based on your spouse paying your attorney's fees, because the attorney can file a motion to have your spouse pay your attorney fees. Some
Mm,
attorneys will do it, some won't. Some will only do it for, a certain number of people per month because, they're not going to get paid for a
mhm,
very long time.
mhm,
Um, very long time. And they can't necessarily afford to do business that way too much. But there is that option. And then you also might be able to qualify for, excuse me, legal aid.
mm.
Um, and you would apply for that through Mid Minnesota Legal Aid. Just Google Mid Minnesota Legal Aid.
Okay, we'll put that information in the description box too. Mhm.
and and then I'm gonna write that down so we remember.
Yeah.
And then so if you are in an abusive situation, you can also contact Tubman, which
Okay.
is a nonprofit organization that helps people who are in abusive relationships. Um, Both of those organizations provide people with reduced cost or free attorneys if
Mhm,
you meet their guidelines. The guidelines for legal aid, you have to earn a ridiculously small amount of money. I don't know what it is at this time, but it's always ridiculously small.
mhm,
And you have to be a parent who has the main or sole physical custody of the children. And those children have to be the children of the person who you're trying to get divorced from.
mm.
So essentially, that means practically no men get help from legal aid
I was
because
gonna say, is it mainly women who qualify for this assistance?
yeah, it's pretty much only women because of
Mhm,
the fact that, an unmarried dad has no automatic custody and parenting rights to his child. And then, excuse me,
yeah.
um, a dad who is married might be able to obtain help from legal aid, but the
To
dad
the
has
mom, the dad who is married to the mom who
only
they
to the
have
mom of the
children
kids.
with.
Yes,
Yeah,
but he would have to earn like a ridiculously small amount of money.
okay.
And then for Tubman, you don't have to earn quite as small of amount of money, but you
Mhm,
have to be able to prove that you're being abused. So you're going to have needed to report that abuse. There needs to be like a police report and different things.
mhm,
Um, so here's a tip for you. Like if you're in an abusive situation and you think that you're gonna get out of it now or soon or
mhm,
ever,
mhm.
you need to call the police when you're abused. Because without a police record, it didn't happen.
And that's so unfortunate because not everybody feels safe enough to call law enforcement.
That's true too.
Mhm,
Yeah.
and it's usually the physical abuse, not the emotional or the
Right.
psychological
Yeah,
or
you don't need to call the
financial
police for
abuse.
emotional or financial. Yeah,
Okay.
right. And you could like so if you're afraid to call the police for various reasons we don't need to get into right now,
Mhm.
um, then make sure that you have people who will sign affidavits
Okay.
and appear in court saying, I have seen him or her be abused by him or her. I saw him or her hit or da 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 da. Da. And also make sure that these people are not only your family members,
The
because
bias right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Mhm. It sounds like honestly, Christy, it sounds like a lot of work.
It is so much work to get yourself out of a bad relationship.
Yeah.
It is so much work. You have to essentially like be an investigator. You have to
Mhm.
collect evidence and then be ready to present that evidence to your attorney and the police and
And when you're going through this trauma, sometimes the last thing for you to do is be an investigator.
yeah. I mean, I would assume that it's really tiring being in a traumatic situation.
Mhm.
And so then you're already tired and you're trying to ramp yourself up to do all this tough stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy, and just hearing you talk about, like, the process and the proceedings and how you need to fit in a specific box, and if you don't fit in a specific box, and you mentioned, like, is it worth it? Some people are gonna think I should just try to tolerate this because the it's like the homework. Like, the homework and doing all the work, is it worth it? And to some people, it's not, especially if they don't have the resources or they don't have the education. And when I say education, I don't mean like having a degree, but just the education, and being informed. And sometimes they don't have access to that too.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never been divorced before or you don't know anybody who's been divorced, like you don't know what happens.
Mhm.
And, reach out for a free consultation, I'll tell you what's going to happen. And so for people who are on the fence, um I know some people who are just so much happier after their divorce.
Yes.
Um I'm of course not going to name names. I'll just tell you, like, someone who is just every day just completely annoyed by his or her spouse every
Mhm.
day and suffered from depression, overate, didn't care about physical health, mental health. Um, Honestly, engaged in some slightly dangerous activities because he or she was just like, what do I have to lose?
Mhm.
And now that person is really healthy, um, or at least making his or her way
Changes.
there to be very mentally and physically healthy and already really quite
Mhm.
mentally and physically healthy and not engaging in things that are risky and um, really happy. And so, really, is your happiness worth it?
Mhm.
And and then, think about your children. That is what I want you to do the most. Like if you do have children, like if you don't have kids, think about you.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you have kids, think about you and your children.
Mhm.
Because when kids grow up in an abusive or neglectful environment, they develop a lot of mental health issues. So you are helping your children have mental health issues. And those mental health issues could turn to physical health issues. And you're also teaching your children how to behave.
Mhm. And what
So,
to accept,
yes.
and what is the norm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Continue
so,
on the
the
generational trauma
female
and
child,
curses.
yep. Yep, generational. And and if you don't break it, the females are, this is stereotyping, but the females are going to be abused and the males could become abusers.
Mhm.
And children are not born that way. Children are not born to be abusive.
Mm-mm.
They learn it.
Mhm.
There's no male out there or female who is abusive,
Mhm.
was born that way.
It is a learned behavior. Yeah.
So please make the call, make the email, take the step to get out of, if your relationship's not abusive, it's if it's just really unhappy, or the abusive relationship, you won't regret it.
Mhm.
You're not going to regret having a happier life.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be happier right away, like, don't let me blow some rose-colored smoke at you.
Right.
Like, you know, like, the people who've a lot of the people who I've divorced and who I know personally who've divorced, like, for the first couple of years, they're living in, like, not
Mhm.
the best housing, and
Mhm.
they're not eating the best foods, and they're struggling to reestablish themselves financially. So,
Mhm.
it's not like it's gonna be a path of roses. But eventually it will be the best decision you ever made.
Right. I think the first few years, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of loss. And so there's a lot of emotions that you're going through, and allow yourself to give yourself that time. You don't need to get over it, you need to get through it.
Ooh, what a good point. Oh my gosh. Because, like, yeah, I hear that a lot, like, "Get over it," and it's like,
Get through it.
a lot of traumas we never get over. So,
No.
my son died a couple of years ago, and
Mhm.
we're not gonna get over that, and, just
Never
all
do.
sorts of stuff. We're not gonna get over it,
Mhm.
but we can learn, through counseling, life coaching, um,
Mhm.
life experience, we can learn coping mechanisms to help
Mhm.
us deal with those things,
Right,
get
right.
through them more effectively.
And divorce is one of the greatest stressors that you will ever go through. Having a baby is a huge stressor. Getting divorced, moving, those are huge stressors. And again, you don't get over it. You get through the emotions. You acknowledge it, and like you said, you find ways to cope. You have tools. You have skills to help you through the days, and eventually, it will get better once you do your inner work.
And nobody's gonna do it for you, right,
No,
Paya?
nobody's gonna do it for you, and you can lead a horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink it. You cannot make any, and we all have free will. We all have free will, and it's what you decide, how you decide to use that free will. Yeah, and so we're recording this in February. So last Friday was Valentine's Day. And do you see any correlation between Valentine's Day and filing for divorces?
Yeah, it's kind of I'm not sure if I'm right on this, but every year around Valentine's Day, the amount of people filing for divorce does decrease. And I just imagine that, the husbands who haven't, been paying a lot of attention to the wives all year. Well, okay, there's only 6 weeks of the year, but you know what I mean. Past 12 months. They do something nice and thoughtful and, pay a little more attention to their spouse. And again, I'm stereotyping saying it's the husband who's not paying enough attention. Could be the wife too.
Mhm.
There are definitely women who don't prioritize their husbands.
Yeah.
Um, and, so I think it gives those people hope, like, oh, he loves me or she loves me. And, oh, we don't need to divorce. Look at that.
Or overreacting.
Oh, tell me
Like
about that.
sometimes people are like, I'm overreacting, and um so one of the things I do, part of work, is I look at social media, about various topics so that I can have to talk about. And it all goes back to, again, human behavior therapy. And once that day is over, or they realize that that partner did not put in the effort, it's like, okay, this person showed me again that they did not put in the effort, and I am finally at the point where I realize that I deserve more and better. And again, this is more towards heterosexual cis couples that you and I are talking about.
Right, right, right.
Mhm.
I mean, the same dynamics though happen in non-hetero couples.
Mhm.
It's just yeah, the words I used
Mhm.
wouldn't apply to the homosexual couples. Yeah.
Mhm. And so I think Valentine's Day was the day for their partner to prove that the relationship is meaningful. And when that person is unable to put in an effort, they finally realize, and I would say almost at peace, because I think a lot of times before someone is going to divorce, they already know, like, have some type of feeling that the relationship is not where they want it to be. And so I think in a way there's already that grieving process that that person who initiates the divorce has gone through. And when there's a final point or final event, that person is like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Because in a way, they've done their grieving already. And so the person who receives, who's the other end, who is shocked, is shocked by the divorce. And it's like, unfortunately, all the signs were there already. All the signs were there already. It's just the other person refused to see the signs, refused to put in the work, refused to put in the effort, whatever it is that that partner wanted and asked them. And the final straw was like, okay, it's the same thing. And they finally come to conclusion, I deserve more, I deserve better. And so sometimes one partner or one party is like, that came out of nowhere. It's like it came out of nowhere and they're just shocked and they're just like, how can you do this? And that person who initiates, it's like, I've done my grieving. I've done my grieving. I did my stages of change, where, I did my stages of change and I did my stages of grief already. And I've come to the exception. And so when someone who is initiating in therapy, I saw a lot of this too. Like they did their grieving, they did everything. And by the time they come to therapy, working with them for like a year, they kind of know already. They just wanted the validation to say, I I have the right to feel the way I'm feeling, right? It's like, yeah, you do. And so it's not it's not out of nowhere. It's been there. It's been there. It's just one person probably chose not to see and do anything about
Oh, yeah, because 'cause they're the problem.
it. and so and so, that person's at peace. And when they come to you, do you find that some of them are just like, I don't want to say gun ho, but they're just like, I'm ready for this. When can we
Oh
get this
gosh,
done?
yes.
Okay.
Oh gosh, yes. Like, and in my work and then also in my personal life, I've had people tell me, "Oh, yeah, when I was, like, ready to pull the trigger, I was like, 'Woo, full steam ahead.'" And yeah, and yeah, my clients, a lot of them are like, "How long is this gonna take?" And I'm like, "We're talking about a legal process that
Mhm.
involves the government, um, the state government."
Mhm.
Goodness. So yeah, it's not gonna be, my clients get through the process faster than people who've lawyered up, but it's still
Mhm.
not fast.
What is considered fast in your world?
Oh yeah. So like if people come to me and they're very reasonable,
Mhm.
and they don't have children together, joint minor children, so kids who are under the age of 18,
Mhm.
uh, then I could have them divorced in 6 weeks.
Ooh, okay.
And that's
In the
if they're
state of
really
Minnesota here.
amicable. Minnesota
Mhm.
only. Yes, Minnesota
Mhm.
only. And that's if they're really amicable with each other. They provide me with everything I ask for really quickly. Um, and we don't need a lot of information from other professionals. Like, for instance, somebody doesn't like own a big business that needs a complex business valuation, because
Mhm.
that'll add probably like a month onto the process,
Mhm.
because that takes a while. But if it's a reasonably simple asset situation and the people are really cooperative with me and with each other, um, no kids, then 6 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. And then if people have children, but they're really cooperative and they provide me with everything I need, and there aren't any really complicated situations where we need information from outside professionals, then we could have that done, excuse me,
Excuse
in
me,
as
don't
little.
even die. We're both recovering from our February sickness here, so we're gonna be doing a little coughing and just clearing our throats here.
Yeah, we're not dying.
No, we're
We're
not dying. We're just clearing things out.
And so, the people who do have children, it could be as little as 3.5 months to the finish line.
Mm.
And that's way different than the traditional divorce process where we're talking like, 9 months minimum because you have a hearing and then you have another hearing and there's all this time between hearings because the court gives you guys time to like exchange information and do all this stuff. So, yeah.
Gosh, as I'm hearing you talk about this, I just think that is so much time and complications and just energy and so much consuming of time that you'll never get back.
That's right. See, and
Mhm.
yeah, and that's the other reason you wanna try to keep things amicable is not only the money, but the time and energy, because the longer that you spend in the divorce process, I mean, the worse your mental health is gonna get.
Mhm.
Just period. And, so um, working together and filing for divorce jointly with ChristieLegal, it's going to speed up the process, which is going to not only save you money because, fewer billable hours, but you're going to get divorced more quickly. You're going to have 0 to 1 court hearings. And these are going to be court hearings over Microsoft Teams. So you don't even have to go anywhere. Um,
Wow. That's
yep,
very
Microsoft
nice and
Teams.
convenient.
Yep, you could be out shopping and go to your car for 10 minutes. Like, literally, the hearing will be 10 to 20 minutes.
And then does that make you divorce after that or
Yep,
is oh,
yep.
shoot. Oh,
10 to
wow.
20-minute hearing and you're divorced.
Oh, damn. That's very appealing. So
Yep.
for anyone who doesn't have children who wants a quick divorce, going your way is so much more time, money, mental energy savings.
Yeah, and the people who don't have kids together don't even have a court hearing.
Wow.
They won't even have to take 10 minutes out of their day. They'll literally mail the court documents, and then within a month, they will have the notice of dissolution of marriage in their hand.
Wow. It seems to me, Christy, that not having children makes things so much more simple. Correct me if I'm wrong.
200% right.
Okay. Okay. And this is not to say don't have children. The reality is when you don't have minor children, it's it's just easier.
It is.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So February is you've been busy. You've been busy the last 10 days and if you're able to share and share what you can or what you feel like, what are some of the things that you are seeing in February, like with certain scenarios, or if they're not certain scenarios, what are you seeing in February that people are reaching out to you about?
Well, so I don't know why, but February has been a tough month for me, just getting a lot of people contacting me with really sad stories. And I actually posted about it on social media yesterday and today.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I mean, and I've always believed this and said this, ever since I started working in family law, which is divorce and child custody law. But who you have a child with or who you marry are the two most important decisions you will ever make. And I'm going to start with, who you have a child with, because I've gotten a lot more calls this month about, excuse me, people who had children, but they weren't married. And it's just been a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so, like the first thing that I want you to think about when you have a child with somebody is how well do you know this person? Like, really? Like, oh, he or she seems really nice.
Or
Man,
they're
you need
hot.
oh, yeah, oh
Oh, they're
my
so
god.
hot. Yeah, they're so
Oh
gorgeous. It's so hot. Our baby's gonna be beautiful.
oh, man, people so need to stop thinking about how cute people are. Like, okay, so as we know as just human beings, and you know Paia
I do.
as a psychologist and life coach, yes, we have to be attracted to the person,
Yeah,
like, no doubt,
yeah.
okay? But that is not how you should be making decisions about who you have a child with.
So you shouldn't have a child with someone who you think you're gonna have beautiful babies with.
No,
But
no,
our baby's gonna be so cute though, Christy.
no,
It's gonna have
no,
blue eyes. Or
no,
green
no,
eyes.
no.
Okay, fine, Christy.
Because, like, outward appearance is so temporary, and it really means nothing for how you guys are gonna get along.
Mhm,
Nothing. Nothing at all. I mean, I'm engaged. Obviously, I think my fiancé is attractive, but that's not why I'm engaged to him.
mhm.
And I'm too old to have kids, so I'm not even thinking about that.
Mhm.
But if I was gonna have kids, that's not what I would be thinking about.
Mhm,
I wouldn't be thinking about, "Oh, we would have cute kids." No. So, you know, you need to know somebody for like 2 to 3 years, depending on like a bunch of factors. Like, if your friends already know this person, okay,
mhm.
maybe you only need to know the person for 2 years. Or, like if you're old like me and you're in your 50s and you have a lot of life experience and you've been through a lot and you've seen a lot of stupid shit and like, you've learned a lot from the stupid shit you've seen and
Right.
done yourself,
Yeah.
then you probably only need to, date somebody for 2 years, before you would wanna have a child with that person.
Mhm,
Um, but, if you're a young person, under 50 and, your friends don't know this person, your family doesn't know this person, you really should be with somebody for 3 years because people who have personality disorders, it takes a while for the mask to come off and the
mhm,
real them to come out
mhm.
because that's what they do. They pretend to be somebody who they're not to reel you in. They love bomb you and, make you feel so good about yourself and about them. And then, actually, what happens a lot of times is those people who have personality disorders will get you pregnant because that will lock you down in their minds.
Mhm. And they're connected to you for the rest of your life. A child is forever. A diamond's forever too, but so is a child. A diamond's not forever, actually. A child is forever.
You can lose the diamond. It's
Yeah,
a
you can
lot
lose a
harder to
diamond.
lose children.
Right.
And, so, like, I mean, really, I've seen it over and over. People who have personality disorders are very quick to be over the top, saying great things about the person, and they're trying to get you pregnant because then they think that you will not leave.
Mhm.
Or if you're a man, then the woman's trying to get pregnant
Mhm.
because she thinks you won't leave because I have your child. You're not going to leave me now.
Or you're financially responsible for that child for the next 18 years. And we see a lot of that too, where certain women will get with men who have resources and have a child with that person, not out of love or anything, but to for the financial support. And that's not a way to bring a child into the world either, because somebody has financial resources.
Oh no. And and actually during February I've had a calls from a couple people
Mhm.
who I don't know that they were setting out to do that, but their child's father has considerably more money than they do.
Mhm.
And but now they're dealing, they're not in the relationship anymore. And now they're dealing with the child being neglected and abused by dad and his family.
Hmm.
So, don't bring a child into the world so that, you can have, a good income, because when you bring a child into the world, you have to protect that child. And
That's
if
the
you have
idea.
a child with the wrong person, that person can abuse or neglect that child, in addition to, of course, abusing or neglecting you.
Mhm.
But, you're the adult, so you're responsible for the kid. And so you owe it to the child to not bring the child into the world with someone who is more likely than not to be abusive or neglectful.
Mhm. You and I did a part 1, and for anybody who did not get to watch part 1, definitely go watch part 1 too, which I will also add in the description box. I think we talked a little bit about that too, like red flags to look out for. And you and I are not dating coaches. We're not trying to give dating advice. This is human, and this is how to not put yourself in situations where the signs are there. And our intention in doing this episode is, again, to never shame, judge anyone, is to educate and inform so that hopefully you don't end up in situations like this, because it is one of the most stressful situationships. And if you have children, this is stressful for them too.
It absolutely is, because they're being pulled in all sorts of directions. They're getting interviewed by law enforcement. They're they're getting interviewed by child psychologists.
Hmm.
They're suffering.
Yeah. And if you have been a child of divorce, not that you have to be a child in, abusive, like you were a child of abuse, but if you're a child who had divorced parents and had to go through all this where the parents were not amicable, I'm sure you had to go through all of this too, and how much it impacted you. So, yeah. And unfortunately, children are the ones that get stuck in all of this.
Yeah, and yeah, when people need to get out of a bad relationship, they should be doing as much as they can to shelter the children from that.
Hmm.
Um, and it can be very difficult if you're crying.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but you should try to shelter the kids as much as you possibly can,
Yeah.
um, because you want them to make up their mind about the other parent,
Hmm.
because, people it's much better if they decide that the other parent is not a good person,
Hmm.
because then you're not putting ideas in their head,
Right.
and people just believe what they figure out on their own much better
Hmm.
than what people tell them.
Even if it takes years, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes pain.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, you don't want your child to go through pain. You want to protect them. And sometimes they have to learn on their own too. And with that comes pain that they have to learn to go through and not get over it also.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, just to clarify, we're gonna do another episode about, um our next episode, we're gonna do another episode about what was our next episode about? I totally forgot. I wrote it down. Who you marry, or
Yep, yep, who you partner with and marry is the most important decision that you'll ever make,
oh,
and you
yes,
can do that.
yes. So this conversation is kinda leading on to that. So, um, before we end, oh my goodness, I'm clearing my throat here too.
Yeah.
What other things are you seeing, or for the month of February, like intentions of February?
Um, so as far as
Like divorces, people are, um, January intentions, I need to get out of this, like February,
oh, okay.
still
So
holding on
yeah.
hope, and it's like, nope, nope, this person showed me who they were, after Valentine's Day, I'm going through this. Like anything else that you see
Yeah,
about
one
like
other thing
intentions.
one other thing I'm seeing is that, kids tend to spend more time, with both parents during the holidays.
Hmm.
And, when they're divorced or separated,
Yeah.
they're spending, that winter break. And now in a couple months, or actually next month, I believe, it'll be spring break. And
Hmm.
then in summer, it'll be summer vacation.
Hmm.
So on all these school breaks, the kids are spending more time with the parents. And so, I've seen an uptick of parents saying, you know, I'm starting to figure out that something not cool happened to my kid over Christmas vacation.
Mm.
And so when you're in a situation where the other parent is abusive, or neglectful, or you think that maybe the other parent is abusive or neglectful, limit the amount of time that the
Mhm.
children are with that parent. Um, if you folks were never married and you're the mom, you can determine when dad sees the child. So if it's an abusive, neglectful situation, then depending on the level of abuse, just don't let dad be alone with kids.
Mm.
Or there are different safety centers
Mhm.
where parents can have parenting time with their kids under the supervision of a professional. Or you could require that, say, the dad has parenting time only with his parents around, or someone who you trust around. Or you could just be like, no parenting time.
Mm.
Um, but if you're just like kind of wondering, like, I don't know if the kids are safe with dad, then just at most 2 days a week with dad. That's it. Even during holidays, because if you're afraid that something bad's going to happen to your child and you let the child go for 1 or 2 weeks,
Mhm.
then that's going to be a long time that you don't know what's happening with your child. And honestly, a long time that you're not able to collect evidence that there is abuse going on. You can't see the abuse, so you can't take a photograph of it. And you also can't do an audio recording of your child telling you about the abuse, because you haven't seen your kid for 1 week or 2 weeks. So it would be in your best interest to limit the number of days in a row.
That's so heartbreaking, Christy. Do you see a lot of those too?
I don't see too many um, because I'm a paralegal and a mediator, and so most people realize they need an attorney for something like that.
Okay.
um, but I actually have seen like more than usual this February, and it's kind of bringing me down. And um, and I can it's hard to work in family law on some days.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in situations like this, you refer them to an attorney.
Yep. Yep, I refer them to some attorneys, and if they don't earn a lot, I refer them to, legal aid and Tubman.
Mhm. Whew. What do you So family law can be very draining and burnt out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My poor fiancé, Lonnie, every night I'm like, "Do you know what?"
It's
I feel bad.
hard. It's hard, and this is I was on again social media for something, and this person, I don't remember a video, and they dress as Disney characters.
Hmm,
And like characters like, um
goofy,
yeah,
right?
like
Or
Goofy or something. And the children will come and hug them and ask them to use their powers to stop the abuse. And
mm,
it's like a side, when you're a character, you're supposed to bring joy, and you bring joy, and these children come to you and say, "I want you to use your superpower to stop the abuse." And it's just heartbreaking. It's like, "Oh, wow." And so
Yeah, that person didn't expect that.
kinda relating to, what you're saying about children is just you wanna protect them. You wanna protect them, and you can't you can't foresee everything. And yet, please, I just wanna say, please think before you have children. And I know that the political climate is very harsh right now for people living here in America, and yet if you can do anything to not bring a child that is not gonna be in a healthy, thriving situation, please really reconsider having a child. And I'm not anti-children. I am about children. That's why I feel that children deserve the best, and if you cannot give that, really think about it, especially the emotional part.
Absolutely, and I have 2 kids, and I'm still like, yeah, not going to if you don't have a plan to provide that child with the best life, just think of a plan that doesn't involve that child. Get a dog, go on a vacation, something else.
Yeah, and again, our intention is not to judge, to shame, to bring anybody down. It's really to educate and inform. And if you are in this situation, you can get help, and it's not easy, and you can do this. You can do this. And there are people out there like ChristieLegal who can help you. And the resources that we're going to provide may or may not be able to help you. And yet know that you can do this because, like you said, the people that go through this, it's like, wow, I'm thriving again. I'm living again. I'm not this sad person who didn't care.
Yep, and I know a few people who are even very strong Christians,
Mhm.
and I know it's hard for Christians, really strong Christians to excuse me, make this decision. Um, and so they struggled with it for many years. And let me tell you, they are so much happier.
Yeah. Yeah. Choose you. Choose you. Choose you. If you have children, choose you and your children. Your children will thank you for it.
They will.
Mhm. Yeah. Any final words, Christy, before we end this episode?
No, the choose you. And if you have kids, choose you and your children. That about sums it up. That was
Mhm.
awesome. And yes, your children will thank you for choosing them at this juncture in your life by not having mental health issues, or if they're already starting to have them, their mental health issues will be less significant, less severe.
Mhm.
They will be happy and thank you by making good choices in their lifetime,
Mhm.
and they will thank you by being more likely to have great jobs and then not relying on you in the future.
For
So,
any parent out there who thinks they can kick their kid out at 18, that's not happening anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I love that. So anyone who is going through a tough time right now, remember to choose you and your children if you have children. And again, it they will thank you. They will thank you. I know a few other people who have children who choose themselves and their children and are so thankful that they made that choice for healthier, thriving kids who are now adults.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Stay tuned. I will link all the resources that Christy talked about in the description box. And if you're new to my channel, please hit the like and subscribe button if you feel that this episode was to your liking. And also going to link our first episode, New Year's Intention Part 1, 2, in case you have not had a chance to watch that, so that it would make more sense on what Christy and I are talking about. So, Christy and I will actually be back with episode 3 too, which continue on about who you decide to marry and have children with is so essential. So, thank you everybody, and we will see you on our next episode. So, take care.